Hello everyone, and welcome back to another part of my RPG Paper Maker tutorial series. Today we're doing custom NPCs and objects. For this we're going to create a new NPC and we're going to take a sprite sheet like this. And this is basically going to be the NPC that doesn't have an animation. And for the NPC that does have an animation, for now we're going to take the sprite sheet of the hero, make sure the box of the stop animation is checked underneath the sprite sheet and on this page, and that way you will have the animate NPC right here. Now we can go right into the game to see if everything works as intended, and yes, you can see one NPC is animated while the other one is not. So when you go into this tab, another thing you can do is go into the pre-made folder basically and look at all the sprite sheets that you already have for the NPCs, and then you can pick whichever one you want to work on. There are two blank people ones, a femme one and a mask one. There's also a template one. This is what it looks like, and then you just open it in the pixel art program of your choice. I personally like working with one of the humanoid ones because it's easier for me than working with the template. But yeah, also if you have a specific character that already looks like an NPC you want to have, you can just customize the character in your program. You don't have to start from scratch. But this is, for example, one of the bases that I would use, and you can just open it, go in there and customize it however you want. You can add hair, you can add a shirt, whatever color you want. It just makes the whole process very easy, especially if you have typical humanoid characters. Now another thing right here, we have the full hero sprite sheet. Now the thing is, the first few rows, like the first four, I think, are the non-animated ones, and after that you have the animated ones. At the bottom you have the climbing animation and stuff like that. You can basically just completely remove that, which takes me a second to figure out. But you can remove that, and then you can just cut the sprite sheet, which I do right here in a second. And that way you will have a sprite sheet that you can use in the future for all of your animated characters, because if they don't climb, then you don't need the climbing animation, and that makes it work properly in the engine, because then it doesn't need to count those blocks as well. Right, and this you can use as a base in the future for everything animated. And right here I started with Speedpaint. I thought this might be helpful if I do a little Speedpaint of a character in one of my games. So this one specifically is going to be a villager of a life sim-esque game. It started as a life sim, but it kind of evolved into so much more. So this character is called Bubbles, and he is a seahorse, and I was a bit unsure how to make his pixel sprite. I have some sketches of him, but it's always like, especially those really round and cute characters, is always a bit hard to then translate into pixel art. But I figured it out along the way, and I ended up changing a lot of colors later on to different shades, because I just noticed like these, especially like the shades of purple, just look a little bit dead. But yeah, because he's a seahorse, I also added like the back fins as if they're like little wings. I just found it really cute. And I know that technically from this perspective you wouldn't see the tail, but I really wanted to have it there. I don't know, maybe I'll remove it later in the front view, but I just thought it would be cute. Anyway, so I'll let you watch the speed paint, and then I'll be right back with the next section. So what I'm gonna do now we have the full animated sheet for Bubbles for this character, but I also wanted to show basically if you would cut it and just keep the first 4 rows, this is how you would have a still standing non-animated character sprite sheet. And I wanted to separate those two and put both of them into the engine so you can see them side by side again, as we did with the previous pre-made NPCs. So, right, so I copy and pasted basically my new sprite sheet into this folder right here, so it's in the game. I start with the animated one. Again, make sure to check the box. Right, we don't have a climbing animation, so we don't need to check that box, and we check this box of the stop animation as well. And then we go over here, we don't need to check any boxes here because there's no animation. And then I copy and paste the other sprite sheet in here as well, so we have both there as a comparison. I'm pretty happy with how he ended up looking, and I hope that I don't end up wanting to completely redesign him again. Anyway, so you can see the animation works as intended, bouncing around happily. You can also look at the character from all sides. So yeah, exactly how it should be. All right. Now, let's get to the next thing. Another thing I wanted to cover in this video is animated objects. And there's a problem, because you already do have sprite sheets of such objects in the engine, but they are not made in a way that really works. So, for example, here we have the fire, and just to show it to you, if you click on the animation and everything again, and also if you wouldn't click on the animation, it wouldn't work. But let's just go into the engine and see what it looks like. You can see it's kind of the top of the fire, and if you turn the perspective, that's a completely different sprite, and it's just a complete mess. And so I had the thought, okay, what if we just make it like an NPC sprite sheet, and then we just take the animated part of that and we put the fire in there and see if that works, and that way we could have an animated object. So I copy and paste it in here, and I had to stretch it because of the size, and then I just went ahead and I did that over all the animated rows, which are the lower rows, the 4, and the above 4 you can basically just delete. You can just take these 4 rows out because it's animated, so you're just going to see the animated ones. I did do all the rows for Bubbles because he's also supposed to walk around and all that stuff, but we don't need the fire to walk around. So I copy and paste it into the folder again, and let's see if it works. This was also my first attempt. I haven't done that before. I just thought it would work. But yeah, so first you're not gonna see anything because we don't have a still standing artwork. Basically, we only have the animated ones. So don't worry about that, because when you go into the engine, you can see that it works and it's animated and looks the same from all sides. And that way you can make your own custom animated objects. You can also just take a fire or something like that and then make a fireplace out of it. You could technically make a lantern or something like that and just make it your own thing. You can copy and paste assets that are already pre-made, right? Oh yeah, right, before I forget, we also have collisions. So as you just saw, I was able to just walk through the characters. Now that's not how it should be. So you should click on the collisions tab, and then you go in the sprite sheet of whatever character you have. I was just rambling, forgot about collisions. And then you just click on these spots, and then you just drag it to the size that you need. Now, one piece of advice is always make the rim, especially on the sides, a bit smaller than a character, so when a hero passes by, there isn't like a block between them. It's just, when the player passes by, it just makes it a bit more awkward, and that way it's more fluid, just feels better. And then you can just click on repeat after you did this once, and it repeats over the whole sprite sheet, and that way you have collisions for every perspective the NPC would be in. Now you can also do this for the objects. I didn't do it for the fire, but you could also do it for that, of course. So that's also the same with any sprite sheet you use here, right? And now we can go into the game again and test if the collisions work as intended or not. And you can see I can't walk through the character and I can walk through the sides, more or less. And it all works. So that's always something to remember, because it just makes it awkward when your player can suddenly walk through an NPC. It's just like, oh. I mean, except for if it's a ghost, I guess. That would be cool. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my video. I also make games on itch.io, and I plan to make more of these tutorials. Shout out to my members. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!